One of the strengths of having a fixed focal length camera is the ability to add an ND filter. And like with the X106, Fujifilm did the same here, and there's an ND filter built in that reduced the entering light by 4 stops. So this is really great.
What's new in filmmaking technology this week? News, reviews, education, insights, opinions, and ideas from the CineD newsroom with Nino Leitner and Johnny Bahiri. This is Focus Check, the weekly Cinetech podcast.
Welcome to episode 56 of CineD Focus Check. Welcome, Johnny.
Hello, Nino. How are you?
I am very well. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. A lot of things are happening simultaneously.
Exactly, and we're moving. I mean, we can already see this tsunami from afar of NAB, which means usually announcements before the show now, right? Usually, basically everything gets announced before a show. We are always lucky when we're there and there's something new. But yeah, big camera announcement today from Fujifilm. The GFX100RF was announced. What are we looking at?
So first of all, I really think that Fujifilm did a great job. They literally took the concept of a lifestyle camera, what they have so far, the X106, and literally upscaled it. So now we have the GFX100RF, and this is a very nice camera. I mean, just by looking at it, you really want to hold it. It's basically a GFX camera with a lot of the bells and whistles that the original or the second generation has. Same 102 megapixels sensor. It has, what can I say? Really all the benefits of the GFX 102, but this one is with a fixed lens. And actually the lens is the big thing for me here, because finally we have a really small lens. It's nice what Fujifilm were able to do here. It's a 35 millimeter lens. And because it's a large format, it's equivalent to 28 millimeter, 35 millimeter standards. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's a f4 lens, but of course, again, because we are talking about a large format, it's kind of a bit faster. I think it's almost f2.8 if equivalent to 35 millimeter. And the design of this camera in general is very nice. They simply did a good job. The only thing, I think there are two things. First of all, it's like a run and gun camera for photographers and also for video, of course. And we'll touch the video capabilities of the camera in a second. But it's really for street photography. It's absolutely a lifestyle product, and we see this trend. We can briefly talk about it. Fujifilm is doing it, Sigma is doing it, Panasonic is doing it. I think everybody in there.
Yeah, so what are the lifestyle cameras we've seen lately? The Sigma BF, of course, which is, we've not reviewed it, but I've looked at a lot of other people taking first look and reviewing it. And the funny thing is camera reviewers kind of hate it as a camera, but love it as a camera. At the same time, they want to have it because it looks so great. But the functionality is limited. Of course, no viewfinder. It's a basic camera in
many ways, yeah, of course.
But it's like...
It's a lifestyle thing.
People will still... I'm still convinced it will be very successful. And I think they probably ran after the success of the Fujifilm X105 and then 6. In a way, it's different. Of course, it's a fixed lens camera, but it's limited in what you can do in a different way because it has a fixed lens. And then also we had the Panasonic S7, which
S9,
which comes in all these different colors and is very much a stylish camera as well, without a viewfinder, and also seems to find its audience. So now we have this, which is like you said, the large format version of the X106.
Absolutely, and for guys like us who actually are interested to explore the video capabilities of this camera, so it can do up to 4K 30p. One of the strengths of having a fixed focal length camera is the ability to add an ND filter. And like with the X106, Fujifilm did the same here, and there's an ND filter built in that reduced the entering light by 4 stops. So this is really great. What else we can say here? So there's a headphone and a microphone socket. So it's all. You can literally do quite a lot of it, and we will know a bit more very soon.
But I think it's fair to say that this is definitely not predominantly a camera that's intended to film with. I mean, you can, of course, but people who buy this probably want the 102 megapixel large format sensor for photography, which is like 11,000 pixels wide, incredible, and 16-bit RAW files. And it's kind of like a rangefinder camera, like a street photography camera, but large format. And I think we haven't seen this before. I mean, there's the what is it?
Q3, if I'm not mistaken.
Which is similar, probably the main competitor here, which is, I think, a 60 megapixel sensor, which also with a fixed lens. And this one, of course, takes it up a notch.
Yeah.
But you can, I mean, it's probably the smallest package you can have in a camera with this sensor size and just, like be out and about.
That's why I'm so amazed with the lens, because for me, the lens here is the big thing. It's really amazing how small it is. So a few more details, just that we don't forget anything. Price will be $4,900. Availability should be around April 24. And it's very compact. It's 735 grams. What else? Not that we forget anything which is important for video. There is no IBIS in this camera, only electronic stabilization. We are yet to see how well it's working. The top plate it's very similar to what Sigma did. This is a block of solid aluminum. Very interesting. And of course, the camera will come in two colors, black or silver. Both of them look really, really nice. And I'm personally actually looking for the possibility of putting an anamorphic adapter on this camera, because now finally I can do this with a GFX, with a small adapter from Blazer. They have a 1.5 anamorphic lens. That's what I want to try to see. The filter diameter is 49 millimeter only, so it should theoretically work out. And by the time that you see this video, hopefully I know better. The batteries are standard batteries from the latest generation of the XT line and GFX line. And there are two SD card slots. So don't expect for video. Don't expect like a real. I mean, the quality is very nice, but don't expect this high data rate that we're used to when you have a CF Express type B card.
Yeah, and I think we should mention that you mentioned the video resolution and 4K 30p. So it's not, you can't do the full resolution. I mean, you don't need to full resolution for video, but it's 4K 30p, 422 10-bit video, and it is compatible with the Frame.io camera to cloud functionality that we tested at NAB last year, which worked really well. So you can, basically directly record your proxies to Frame.io to speed up your editing workflow.
Just to complete this, I mean, there is an electronic viewfinder next to the optical one. There is also a very neat knob that changed the aspect ratio, but this is probably only for photos. That's the latest that I heard. So we just have to see, if you can do 16, because at the end, with such a huge sensor, you can literally, or you should be able to crop into the sensor and do different aspect ratio. So this is working very nice in photo mode, which you can literally zoom in a digital way without losing any resolution here. But we have to check for the best of my knowledge, this is not working for video, but I will have a confirmation for that.
At the time of recording, do we know if that lens will also be available as a separate lens for the GFX100R?
That's a very good question, and this is one of the questions that I have in my question list for the Fujifilm representative, because again, if they will have this lens as a separate lens for the current model of the GFX100 II or any of those, that will be simply amazing.
Very cool. So first big camera announcement, or actually not the first one, but for NAB kind of. But more will be coming. I think next week, when we record next week, there's going to be more camera news.
We're going to have a lot of cameras soon. But nice, it's very good. And next topic.
Let's move on. Let's go through some of the news of the week. Not a big week in terms of news, because I think a lot of people are holding back news now for NAB, of course. I mean, we had a review go out about the new Tilta tripods. Graham reviewed the new 4 tripods from Tilta. It's the CT12, a 75 millimeter tripod, and the CT08, and that's a little bit like a medium version, which does like 17.6 pounds or 5 to 10 kilograms, and the other one I think does 10 to 15 kilograms, if I'm not correct, or 26 pounds. The big one, the CT12, and then we have the VT05 and the VT03, both of which are small tripods, and actually the tiny one we have here, because we like to use it also.
Yeah,
the VT03.
The other one also in the office. I forgot to bring it.
But this is the tiniest one. That's it's very funny. It looks like a normal tripod shrunk. And yeah, what can we say? I mean, he really liked the tripods. His favorite was the CT08, actually, the middle one, which comes with telescopic legs. Let me find it here.
It's $900. It's amazing what such a revolution when it comes to pricing of the in tripods. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I mean, Graham points out, I mean, he has a lot of experience, of course, as a DP with different tripods, and he's very picky about tripods. Like I am too. I mean, I've worked. We're always forced to sometimes work with tripods that, you know, from somebody else, and when you're not used to them, or if they're a little bit beaten up from a rental house, it can get very tough. And of course, I mean, the whole tripod market has been dominated by very few companies in the past. It's fair to say that this is only a recent phenomenon that we have new manufacturers like Tilta enter this space and really offer something competitive that is really giving the more expensive versions a little bit of a run for the money. Yeah. He compared to the Sachtler Flowtech, and also the upsides and downsides of the CT12, which is the big one. I think part of the review, he really liked the counterbalance. I mean, you have like a lot of, I think 10 or 12 counterbalance steps on the big one, which is incredible, of course. Sorry, not counterbalance, drag steps. So this means you have really a lot of different options here. It is heavier than a Flowtech tripod, but the design, of course, you know, like the unusual shape of the Flowtech legs is good and bad. It's good. It's easy to carry. The problem is those can break more easily if you know, like if they get hit to the ground or like handled by airport security. And he points out an instance where that happened. Having this round profile on tripods, of course, is more traditional in a way, but it also gives them more rigidity for transport, but also makes them heavier if you have more of those, you know, like round legs basically next to each other. But it is, I mean, he liked the tripod, especially the head. He had a bit of a criticism of the rubber feet, which were a little bit slippery. But his favorite tripod was the middle one, the CT08, which is a telescopic one, which of course has the downside that on a telescopic tripod, you have to open 3 different stages. So like 2 levers on each leg, where on the other one, you just have 1 lever on each leg. And yeah, this one really convinced him for medium-sized cameras like C80, C300, FX6, and so on. Yeah. And then moving on to the smaller ones, yeah.
I just want to say that the nice thing here, that Tilta is doing those tripods in-house. It's not that they have a third-party company to do it for them. They literally invested in a line in the factory, and you can see our factory tour. We visited them, I think it was a bit over a year ago.
Yeah, we'll put the link in the show notes.
Yes, please. And of course, at that time, they didn't, actually at that time, they were just planning to do the tripods. I mean, I was lucky enough to see some of the drawings, but they really manufacturing them now in-house, which is a big advantage because we know how it is. Some companies do sell products that they don't make in-house. Some other companies are doing it. The big advantage here, it means that they can really change stuff much faster. They can redesign parts if something is not working faster. And I think they are very serious about the whole tripod thing.
Yeah, I think it's something that's always kind of like, you know, like sounds boring, tripods. But in the past, I think it was boring enough for most companies, so that actually just a few companies had this market, and which meant that it's essentially they were very expensive. I mean, they're not easy to manufacture. They're purely mechanical, but that to make a good tripod, especially a bigger one, is not so easy. I think Tilta has found that too. There were a little bit of a delay with shipping of those tripods. Now they're shipping them, and I'm happy that they're holding back if they find issues and not replacing them with new versions.
Especially the heads, the tripod heads. If you ever cut a tripod head in the middle, sliced it, it's unbelievable what goes inside. From the type of oil that companies are using to the whole mechanical parts inside, it's very crowded there.
Yeah. And these tiny ones, I mean, this is very funny. Of course, this is not, not to be used as a main tripod for anything, but I think this is perfect because you can use it on your, more and more people are using normal cameras as webcams, and you can just place this on your desk basically, and you can perfectly tilt and pan it and then lock it down and can change the height. I think for easy stuff, especially for vloggers and people who are working alone, who need to film themselves, it's very nice to very easily position the camera, because actually it's not that easy to position a camera on a desk, right? If you don't have a tripod, I mean, this is really smart. I mean, there is the Graham also mentions the Pixie from Manfrotto, which is a tiny version of this, also much cheaper, of course. So if you need a tiny solution, that works, but it's very inflexible. You can't do all those different angles and so on. It doesn't have a head. It's basically just some plastic legs that can do, some positioning. But this is, of course, trying to mimic a big tripod that you need to place on top of something like a desk.
And that's one of the things that I do like here, that you can literally, by a twist of a head, you can separate the head from the leg. So if you need the head to go elsewhere on a small slider and so on, it's extremely easy. That's very nice.
So check out that review. It's a written and video review on CineD.com. We'll put the link in the show notes. He has a lot of thoughts about each one of those tripods. It's quite extensive, so check it out if you're interested in getting a new tripod. It's really worth watching and reading. Good. Let's move on to Eddie AI. So who's Johnny? Who's Eddie?
Who is Eddie? Well, I didn't meet Eddie personally, but the person behind it, one of the two people behind it, his name is Shamir.
Oh, I remember him.
Where from?
What was the product called? Simon Says.
Exactly. So if you guys remember, at the early age of AI, I think before even calling it AI, there was a
before
software.
ChatGPT.
Exactly. Simon Says was a thing which literally you could feed it with some video, I think it was, and then it would translate to different languages. If that's correct?
Well, it's basically transcribing. So it was like an online transcript, or it's still there. It transcribes your videos, and I think you can translate too. But basically, this came out before most of the NLEs had this function.
It was a standalone product, exactly. Yeah. And then the owners or the people behind it sold it to Meta, Facebook, and they moved on. And the next venture is Eddie AI. And Eddie AI is described as an assistant video editor. We played with it a little bit, and I have to say this is quite amazing. Literally what it tries to do, it tries to organize some of the material for you. It's a plug-in for the leading NLEs out there. And I think by watching how it works, you will be pleasantly surprised. For complete transparency, we always like to be open and transparent with you guys. We are really experimenting the workflow with this, because here it's really a matter of how to speed things up, let's say an exhibition like NAB, and to see what can be done and what cannot be done, like where's the limitations. And I have to say that the company itself is very supportive here. They're really trying to understand also our workflow during the trade show, for example, and then we will see how Eddie AI with the plugin to resolve in this example, if this can help us to organize all the material and even suggest a rough cut, which is quite amazing. So what it does in generally, it's not only looking at the visuals, but it's also hearing it. I mean, in a way, it knows what is being said in the interview, for example, and based on that, it can also make some decisions.
Well, it reminds me very much of what it looks like on Simon Says, actually, on some of the transcription stuff. I'm sure they used, of course, what they learned on that first startup they had, or the prior one. Yeah, we are experimenting with this because we need the fast turnaround for the trade show videos. So hopefully we can utilize some of that technology to speed things up when we are shooting at NAB. So let's see.
Yeah, and if there will be anything to report to you guys, like in the sense of the workflow is working, it's worth really working with such a thing, we will let you know, because we are very curious. It's really how to use AI here for the benefit of editing and fast turnaround.
Good. Let's move on. So we had some more news. That actually came out a couple weeks ago, but we just reported about that. The Peak Design Roller Pro is a new camera trolley from Peak Design. Now, all of you probably know Peak Design, very popular company when it comes to camera bags, because I guess they were one of the first ones to have really, really stylish camera bags. And I think they've been around for like 10 years now, so quite a while. This is my standard camera bag, so it's one of their backpacks. I forgot what it's called, but it's really, really convenient for camera stuff and laptops. On the surface, it looks very much like a hard shell case, but I think it is actually kind of soft outside and hard inside, so it gives you your gear protection. Has 4 wheels, which is flexible enough. And if we look at the video, you can see that they worked hard on solving the rattling of the actual handle. If you look inside, that's where it gets interesting. It is, of course, perfect for cameras. You can use their cubes. They have this cube system in different sizes, so you can put those different other bags inside if you want, and then have dividers inside the bag that are, customizable depending on your camera gear. I mean, it is, it's not rocket science. It's definitely not as revolutionary as some other stuff we've seen in the space. People seem to like their travel tripod quite a lot, for example, which has been very, very popular. But I think it's nice to see somebody take on this as well, and kind of do it specifically for camera gear. And it seems to be very, very popular if you look at their Kickstarter campaign again. Yeah,
that's what I like. It's hard for me to relate to the bag, honestly, from different reasons, which I'm happy to talk and explain why. But when it comes to the community that they built around them and behind them to back up projects like this is fascinating. And this is something that I think many companies should look into, how Peak Design did it. Because I remember talking once to one of CEO of a leading company in our industry. One of the main products at that time was a bag or bags, and they were totally shocked. They couldn't believe how a company comes from nowhere and literally stealing a lot of business from them and building such a huge community that supports them. So this is something that should be, a company should study how they did it.
Yeah, I think one of the things, the first time I came across Peak Design was with their camera straps, right? I mean, they started, I think, with the straps, which were just a simple way to carry your camera. And if you remember, it was simply to screw on the quarter 20 screw hole at the bottom of the camera and just hang it around your neck, basically, and then have different versions of that to clip onto bags. And only then they came out with bags. And I think they made some smart decisions. They kind of, found a solution that nobody else had in the beginning, and then moved on to make things better that were already there. And then by that time, they already had a fan base. And I think it's always smart. I mean, they literally just launch one bag, right? I mean, if you look at other companies, that they probably launch a whole range of bags, which is also much harder to market because you can focus on one bag and just explain how versatile it is. And that seems to be, in terms of messaging, much easier for people. Yeah, but it looks nice. I mean, I agree with you. It doesn't look like like anything
we haven't seen before.
Really, really special. Because we've seen other roller bags before, but I think the versatility is what they're aiming for in terms of like what you can put inside. I mean, you can see here that, I mean, of course, it's a very, very full bag. You can do this with other bags too. What I like about this bag and the other bags from Peak Design that I use is that there seems to be very little wasted space in terms of, like the whole technicalities of how the bag works. And you can see this here, like it's really, really, you can fill it up. You can put a lot of stuff inside, which honestly is not always good because I usually carry around too much stuff because I'm not good at taking it out. But anyway, so Peak Design roller bag is out now. If you're interested, check out the article and let's move on here. Good. We had a little first look also from Graham of a media hub, the ProGrade media hub, which is, what is it, like a combination of...
Well, it's a very smart idea. It's basically a base with Thunderbolt. Actually, a few of those. I think there are two of those Thunderbolts. Let me just confirm
Thunderbolt
this.
4, yeah.
Yeah. And then you can literally either use their own SSD or just card readers. So the card reader will be on top of the hub itself, going into the hub and then the hub to the computer. So the whole thing is that when you want to move material from one card to another, either for backup or freeing space or whatever, you can do this in the maximum possible speed because it's kind of all internal. And I think what is the important thing in this article, besides the equipment part, is everything to do with backing up material. And I think Graham mentioned it in a very nice way because we all know the drill. End of the day, you need to copy stuff. You simply want to go either home or back to your room in the hotel.
And you don't really think about what reader you're using, what cable you're using.
Okay, exactly.
And then you lose time.
You lose time, and sometimes, that's when you're so tired. That's when mistakes can happen. So I think in that regard, it's really important to read this article and see the workflow because Graham is a working professional. So it's not just writing stuff because they look good or whatever. He literally use it, and he's talking about the advantages and what is less working for him. But all in all, it's a very nice hub, very good idea.
Good. Let's move on. We had an announcement of a cinema robot, which is the cinema robot for the rest of us. I don't know. It's still expensive. It's $10,000. And it's not like a bolt head, of course, which costs a lot more, a bolt arm. But this one, the Motorized Precision Evo, is a compact Cinebot for motion control. And what does it mean when I say compact? Well, the maximum payload capacity is only 5 kilograms or 11 pounds. It's the maximum extended height is 1.2 meters or 4 feet. And the maximum reach is 0.85 meters or 2.79 feet. The shooting speed is 2 meters per second, which is of course very fast if you consider how small it is. And the joints can turn 180 degrees per second. And it's very lightweight, made of aluminum and carbon fiber. And it can operate on a single battery pack, providing 110 volts. Now, $10,000 is still a lot of money, but if you are shooting pack shots, I would say, or product stuff,
exactly.
Basically, you have your little product setup, and you need this, a typical move around shots of a product or something small, and you have your studio setup. Let's say you're, there are people. I know people who are actually shooting video for web shops who keep doing the same thing for a lot of different products, and that of course makes sense for them. It's going to be shown at NEB. Maybe we'll check it out. I don't know yet. But it sounds interesting for what it is. I mean, again, $10,000 is not pocket change, but I guess for the purpose, it's something that probably can make its money back quickly if it works well.
I'm also very curious about the name. like Evo, it's kind of a popular name those days. Also, Fujifilm has in their Instax line of cameras, Evo Mini, for example.
So, Evolution, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's very like so many. Yeah.
Yeah, we also see. I mean, there's also new stuff coming from MRMC, the Mark Roberts motion control, the Nikon-owned company. Yeah. So I'm sure this space will be. Maybe that's the next big thing in terms of like affordable motion control. I think we can slowly see inroads in that. We see, like also Kessler Crane had some announcements last year around that. Not motion, not arms, but like motion control sliders and stuff like that. So I think there's more and more stuff coming that's not as out of reach as it used to be. But let's see who's going to be the real disruptor here once we see something.
But that's a great direction. First of all, it looks nice, and I think, as you said, for those who are working on pack shots, have a studio. Or
we should have a robot arm here. Like move between us. Have some
move the microphone between us?
No, like move nice shots. But let's start with a nice background first. So yeah. Never-ending story. Okay. Other small piece of news: Cinelux announced a bunch of mags for the Red DSM-C1 and DSM-C2 cinema cameras, so the older Red cameras. If you remember, there was a time where we had CineMags, which was somebody who did a
series of videos.
YouTube channel who kind of trashed Red for selling expensive proprietary storage solutions for their older cameras, and because he kind of dissected them. And that actually led to a price drop of the proprietary storage solutions from Red. And now basically what you're using on modern Red cameras are CF Express Type B cameras from Angelbird, which are the original ones that Red offers. And but there are still, DSMC 1 and 2 cameras out there. I think Red stopped manufacturing those mini mags, and now you have other manufacturers making them. And Cinelux announced the NEXA-MAG, which are different capacities, 408 and 960 gigabyte SSDs. Now, a lot of people in the comments say actually, well, this kind of defeats the purpose because they are actually not that much cheaper than the originals were, or at least there seem to be a lot of other more affordable solutions out there. Boo Radley comments that he loves the concept, but there's plenty of Minimax out there and that they are cheaper than these. There's some web shops that have a lot of 480 mini Red Minimax for $300 to $400. Seems just like a few years too late.
Yeah, it's actually interesting. I mean, I would love to talk to the person behind Dave and know why why now?
Why now?
Yeah, why now?
Yeah. Well, I guess there's still a lot of cameras out there, and maybe, I don't know, I don't have an overview of how many options are there, but there seem to be others. So there's one more now, which I'm sure some people will be happy about, because competition drives the prices down of those things. Good, let's move on to our MZ Education article of the week. Masha made a deep dive into the making of Flow. If you remember, that's the animation film that won the Academy Award this year. And it's very, very interesting how that film was made, because it utilized technology that is made in the it was all made on the zero-cost software Blender and literally rendered on the director's PC. Now, don't get too excited immediately. I think nobody has made any money on this film yet, and I think the person behind it spent over 5 years making it. Yeah, this film looks absolutely amazing, and don't forget, this won over Pixar in the Academy Awards. I mean, that's amazing. You now have kind of like total budget animation films that can take on the giants of the animation industry, and it looks absolutely beautiful. Of course, and it just shows what technology is enabling. I mean, even if it's still a lot of work and the person behind it worked on it for over 5 years, and I think it still hasn't earned any money, it's amazing what's possible right now.
Also, here's the storytelling, because the whole story is very touching.
Yeah, so check it out. It is really a deep dive on how this was made with behind the scenes stills of actually the Blender software and look and development of the entire film is a very, very interesting story. There's also a nice interview and behind the scenes embedded in the article with, I hope I say the name right, Cinelux Balodis, the director, co-writer, co-producer, cinematographer, editor, and co-composer of the film. Sounds like a student film where everybody, like one person does everything, but I mean, it's amazing.
Amazing.
Won the Oscar, so yeah. Last few bits of news. We had a development update from Nexus G1, the modular box form camera that is based on the Blackmagic Pocket cinema camera 6K. Now, if you remember, I think we had one episode a couple months ago where we talked about this. People got very excited about it. They made a very, very nice presentation of that camera in terms of like an animated video, and also the features that they add to this camera compared to the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K are extremely impressive. But like development seems to be moving on.
I'm a bit concerned here, I have to say, because it's not that Blackmagic Design is not doing anything. Yeah, they are also moving on, and traditionally around NIB, they are usually announcing stuff. Not that we know what is coming up, but I'm just saying, I just hope for the sake of the brothers behind this project that Blackmagic Design will not come up with something which will jeopardize their efforts, especially that they are dealing with a kind of older sensor by now. So I really wonder how that's going to turn out, because obviously the usability and look of the camera is amazing, but that's not enough. You also need a solid sensor inside it. And if Blackmagic Design is moving forward with different sensors, regardless of the resolution, I hope it's not going to hurt the guys. What is really also interesting here is, because this has nothing to do with Blackmagic Design per se, but on the other hand, they are encouraging. I mean, they are communicating with those guys. So next to the Blackmagic original cameras, that will be one of the only cameras that actually can record in Blackmagic RAW and so on. So it's just this type of cooperation is a bit of a mystery for me. I would have loved to know more how the cooperation started, how it was established, what can they do and what they can't, and yeah, just an amazing product. I think anybody attempt to build a product. I mean, anybody that was in this business or is in this business, how much effort and dedication and time you need in order to come up with something like that.
Yeah, right. I mean, basically, what everybody wants is a Pixies with a better sensor, right? And if Blackmagic comes out with that, that's the question: where does it leave these guys? I mean, of course, it's more flexible with, I think, interchangeable mounts and all those things.
A lot of stuff here. Yeah. Really nice, useful stuff. It's almost like a dream camera in terms of usability. But at the end, you also need a capable sensor. Not saying that the one they put inside is not capable, but by the time that the camera is out, there will be probably 1 or 2 generations of newer sensors.
Well, hopefully we can only hope that the cooperation with Blackmagic Design is deeper, in a sense that they will also have access to the next sensors that they will bring out. But we'll see. I also don't quite understand. I mean, it's nice that Blackmagic cooperates here, but on the other hand, if they thought everything they are putting inside this is something that people need and want, they would probably make it themselves. So, or hire the entire development team behind this camera. Maybe
that's, but some car manufacturers always have those like a sports section, like a sub company or a designer who's doing stuff a bit different. So it might be that they will maybe end up under Blackmagic Design. Who knows?
Yeah, but anyway, it's very nice to see this. I mean, it's even 10 years ago, we already had companies like, you remember Apertus and some others that were making like open source cameras and stuff like that. And, like some were successful, some were not. But I think it's much, much harder to make a camera, even if it's a rehoused camera, than people think. Yeah, so good. Last but not least, short mention of a little bit of a update announcement on the website that we had. We introduced a new feature to CineD.com, which is basically, well, Johnny, I'll let you talk about that.
Well, the basics or the idea behind this like this article button that we have now, we got feedback from some readers, especially Ram, who is following us for many years, and he said a simple thing. I love what you do. I love the content. I don't always have the time to write a comment. Why there is no way to simply click on a button and just to show appreciation to whoever wrote the article or just the idea behind it? So, we picked up the gloves, talked to our developers, and we introduced the like this article button. It's very small at the end of every article. And guys, there's a lot of time being, we put so much time writing stuff, and our team is really dedicated. So even if you don't leave a comment, simply click and we will know that you like what you saw, and that will be simply a mental help, let's say it, because sometimes when you work on a site like ours with so much is happening around, you want to know that somebody actually consumed the information and really liked it. And of course, we know it's a fast-paced world, and there's not always time to leave comments. So just use it; it will show appreciation.
Yeah. And I think, we can also mention here, we're constantly working on enhancing the website experience. For example, we've also increased the time you're logged into the website for registered users. So if you're not registered to CineD.com, please register, because it will actually give you a lot of benefits, full access to the CineD databases, which is, like all the database research, all the lab test results that we get from camera testing are freely available to you in the databases if you're registered. And in the past, this login window was a little bit too short. I think it was only 48 hours, and then you had to log in again. It was now extended to 2 weeks. So this is there's a security reason behind that, why at some point any user of a website should be logged out. But together with our developers, we were able to extend this to 2 weeks. So now, you're not constantly asked to log in again if you are a registered user to the website. All right. Should we wrap it up here?
Yes, I have a train to catch.
All right. Thank you. And thank you, Tony. Thanks everybody for watching. Stay tuned for a lot more to come. There's, until you hear the next episode next week, there's going to be a lot of new videos also on the channel, and also new articles about new cameras and new other stuff. So stay tuned. And also don't forget to subscribe to the CineD Focus Check podcast on your favorite podcasting platform, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else you get podcasts. And of course, YouTube. Leave a comment. Send us an email at podcast@cined.com if you have any questions or comments about the podcast. And yeah, thanks for watching. See you guys. Hear you next week.
Bye.